Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So it's already 11:50, sir. We have some number of participants. They will keep on joining. Actually, the last session ended just 10 minutes back. So we can start the session if you permit, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second session of our fifth day of this workshop. And in this session, we have the honor of having with us Dr. Mahesh Kumar Kolekar. And I had a long association with Dr. Kolekar since our USA days. So I'm very happy to have him here after so many years. And I welcome you, sir. And Dr. Mahesh Kumar Kolekar is an associate professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering at IIT Patna. He earned his PhD from IIT Kharagpur. He worked as postdoctoral fellow at the Department of Computer Science, University of Missouri, Columbia, Missouri, and USA, and then as Dard Fellow in TU Berlin in Germany. He has guided 6 PhD students and has published more than 60 papers in referred journals and in conferences of international repute. He has edited several books and authored many chapters. Dr. Kolekar is supervising several funded projects, among which prominent ones are Abnormal Human Activity Recognition, funded by Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, New Delhi, and Multimodal Brain Fingerprinting, funded by Center for Advanced System Engineering at IIT Patna. He has organized several conferences, workshops, has been on the editorial board of several journals, and won several Best Paper Awards in international conferences. With these words, I now welcome Dr. Mahesh Kumar Kolekar, sir.
Okay, thank you for introduction. So I will share PPT and I will start presentation. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Just a minute. Okay. So I have shared the PPT. Is it visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. Okay, good morning. So today I will present a talk on deep learning techniques for COVID-19 detection. So we are aware about this COVID-19 pandemic situation. So we try to contribute in it by using X-ray based images. Actually, we are using X-ray based image as well as CT images, and we try to detect COVID-19 infection. So those things I will share in the today's talk. Okay, so first I will introduce what is deep learning, then a little bit about image enhancement technique, that is of CT images, and then I will discuss the model which we propose for COVID-19 detection. So that is the outline of the talk. So what is deep learning? Okay. As we are all aware about the artificial neural network, so it's just an extension of that, actually introducing many more hidden layers in between, and that's why the model is called as a deep. Deep means number of layers. More the layers, more the deeper model will be. So and here as ANN is just mimic of our human brain. And after this ANN, actually everything we have to put in the vector. Actually initially input layer is a vector. So instead of that, actually people use the image processing technique. Image is a two-dimensional quantity, and we can have a filter there actually, and that's why first CNN model was introduced, and it becomes very popular. So I will discuss that also in the presentation. So this is the input layer, and then we have output layer. Output layer is usually based on the number of classes, and these hidden layers extract the features automatically from the given input data, and based on these features, output layer will be performing classification. So let us see what is a single neuron. So here we have these inputs for this neuron, single neuron, x1, x2 up to xn is the input, and they have different weights, w1, w2, wn, And here we are just adding those weights actually. We can include a bias term also, and some activation function is used actually to take the decision. Okay. So this can be a sigmoid function, this can be a tan function or any other functions. And then our output will be 1 or 0. Okay. So in this way, single neuron would work. Yeah, nowadays, artificial intelligence is a very key term actually. Okay, so everybody is using artificial intelligence because of its applications in various domains. So machine learning is the special subset of the artificial intelligence, and again, a deep learning is again a subset of machine learning. So that's why it's good to compare the deep learning with the machine learning. So in machine learning, we have to extract the features first, and then we can apply a classifier. A classifier can be a support machine, artificial neural network, random forest, decision tree classification. So there are many machine learning classifiers actually. So this field well developed actually, but limitation is, as I mentioned here, medical data changes from patient to patient. So if we develop a machine learning model for example, the patients of India, actually Indian origin. Okay, so they may be having some different symptoms actually if we compare to the other countries' patient. Okay, so then every time we have to change the model actually. So feature learning we have to change, as well as classification performance also change. So this problem is overcome by the deep learning because here features will be detected automatically. Which features are important, which are not important, those things will be performed during the deep hidden layers. Okay, we are going to discuss those things in details. So that's why people switch to the deep learning, and because of the CNN actually convolutional concept actually, uh, people there was a lot of development in this. And secondly, one database, ImageNet database actually, which was published I think before 2010. Um, so after that actually people started using more deep learning. Okay. So that's why there is a lot of business also. I have shown here $300 million medical imaging market will be in this year. So okay. So I have already explained deep learning and machine learning approach. So here you can see for machine learning we have to put one separate feature extraction block, whereas in deep learning we do not require any feature extraction. So that's the major difference. But deep learning, this works actually better if we have a higher data. So that's why I've shown here graph of amount of data versus performance. So when amount of data is very less, then it hardly matters whether you go for deep learning or traditional machine learning. And better will be the machine learning because it requires a less competition than the deep learning. If number of data actually is less, samples are less. But as data increases, then deep learning will be very good. So this is a performance-wise comparison. There are various definitions like IEEE spectrum. Actually, I saw this definition that deep learning as a building of learning machines, say pattern recognition system or whatever, by assembling lots of modules or elements that all train the same way. Okay, this is one definition. Another definition is um, machine learning based on a set of algorithms that attempts to model high-level abstraction in data by using deep graph with multiple processing layers composed of multiple linear or non-linear transformations. Okay, so such a difficult definitions are given by many people, but in brief, I will tell that we are here, as mentioned, is multiple processing layers, means we are going to use many layers. We are going to use the activation function as a linear or non-linear transformation, and high-level abstraction means the layers near the beginning layers will have a low-level feature extraction, and as we go near to the output side, actually, then abstraction will be more. Okay, so that's the definition about deep learning. So today we are going to discuss COVID-19 detection. So it's a medical field. So that's why I decided to summarize the deep learning scope in the medical image analysis. And you can see here that there are different tasks actually in medical image analysis, like detection or localization, segmentation, registration, classification. like a detection and especially localization. This is used for a surgery like brain tumor surgery or other things. Segmentation will help you that what is the size of the tumor actually, so you can plan surgery. Okay. Registration means if you are taking the images from different angles like CT images or other images, so you can merge actually many images and you can generate a 3D view or other things. Classification means if you have uh, detected the tumor, then you can classify into the types actually, whether it is a disease or non-disease, or if it is a tumor, then various types of the tumors. Okay, so you can classify them. So these are the different tasks actually, where people are using image processing, medical image processing, and uh, deep learning, and and anatomical regions actually. Here I have mentioned that is a brain, breast, eye, chest, abdomen, and other organs actually. So this is the train actually. So I have given some analysis here actually of the research trend actually, in which area people are doing the research and what methods they use actually. So first graph indicates the deep learning methods actually. So orange color indicates the CNN, then RBM, then RNN, then blue, sky blue, light blue color indicates AI means autoencoder. So all these are the different deep learning methods. So among them, you can see CNN is very popular. I collected the papers actually. This is up to 2017. I have not included the recent one. But you can see here orange color indicates that CNN has a wide scope actually. Okay, people are using CNN. So large number of papers are there, even near 200 papers are there. Okay, and then second graph indicates the uh, task actually. Which task? Segmentation task actually, you will find a lot of research on segmentation task. Then come to the detection and then classification. Okay, and then other things actually, detection of landmarks, then segmentation of object registration. So our COVID-19 detection problems comes under classification. Okay, we will classify uh, whether it is a COVID or not COVID. So that is the case. Again, there are different modalities in image processing. We know the image actually. We know the grayscale image or color image, that we know. But in medical field, there are different modalities. One modality is X-ray image, so image captured by X-ray device. Another, it's a two-dimensional or single image. Then CT images actually. CT means we can have um, uh, images from different angles actually, in 360-degree. All angles will covered actually, so that we can model the that body organ actually. Okay, viewing from the all the angles. Okay, so it is called as a CT image. And another important modality is a MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. That is also similar to the CT image. And then a special model like mammogram, then fundus photos for retina, and mammogram for breast cancer detection people use. So all these are the modalities. So you can see among these modalities, MRI is widely used actually, and after that microscopy and then CT. So in our research, whatever I am going to present, so that is based on the CT images. Initially we started with X-ray, but now we are using a CT because of more benefits. So that I will discuss while discussing CT images. Then you can see here another statistic given, the like which part actually, body parts actually, people are doing a lot of research. So pathological test actually, a lot of research is there. But after that, brain, and that's why brain tumor detection and other things coming in. Then other some applications, and then lungs actually. Lungs means so COVID-19 is coming under the lungs. So you can see there are a lot of research on lungs. Okay. So before COVID, actually, people they used to detect pneumonia and other things using chest X-ray images or chest CT images. And then abdomen, cardiac, breast, bone, retina, other things. Okay. So this is one overview of the deep learning utility or deep learning popularity in medical field. Then, as I mentioned, we have seen highest number of papers are in CNN. So CNN is a well accepted model for medical image processing. So that's why here just I have given a small summary of CNN. So CNN stands for convolutional neural network. Actually, in second year there's a course signal systems. So there people study this mainly electrical or electronics engineering students study convolution operation actually. So one mask will be there or filter will be there that we convolve. So here image may be of big size like 128 by 128, and we can have a convolution mask of size 3 by 3 or 4 by 5. So that mask will move around throughout the image actually, and we will have a new response. Okay, so that is called as a convolution operation. So that I will explain in next slide. So first is a convolution mask, and that's why we got here 8 layers. Then we can reduce the size of the image or that matrix by using a max pooling operation. Just this helps for dimensionality reduction. And again, when you can go for another convolution operation, again max pooling. In this way, we can have multiple layers actually. More the layers actually, more the abstraction of the features actually, more higher level features. So initially in the beginning layers, we will have some low level feature extraction. If you go for higher and higher layers, we will get a higher level features. Okay, and a last layer is a dense layer actually. So there, so it depends on the number of classes. Here, there are two dense layers, and last is the 1 by 128 dense layer. So here we can consider that there may be a 128 classes. So this is the general architecture of CNN. And here, this slide actually I tried to explain convolution operation. So you can see image is of size 7 by 8 rows and 7 rows and 8 column size image. Okay, and we have used a mask of 3 by 3. So 3 by 3 mask. This is a input is a binary image actually, and we have used this mask, and we are convolving this operation. So we can place this filter actually on this first pixel. Since it's a 3 by 3 actually, we cannot consider the first row and last row and first column and last column uh, because we want a response for center pixel actually. Okay, that's why the output image is of size uh, 5 by 5. Okay, 7. So 7 by 7 is the input image, then 3 by 3 is a filter, and 5 by 5 is the output image or response image. So this mask actually, these coefficients will be multiplied to the intensity values, and then there will be sum, and we can divide it by 9 actually, or you can keep sum as it is. So that is the convolution operation. Okay, so you have to move this mask. We will move this mask by one step, one location, and one position to the right, and in this way, once we finish the first row, then we'll go for the second row, third row in this way, so that we will process all the pixels. So this is a pixel level operation. So it is also called as a special domain operation. Okay. So this is the convolution mask. Pooling layer we have seen used for dimensionality reduction and extracting the important features. So here you can see 8642 actually. This original image size is 8 by 4. Okay. So here actually for these 4 pixels we are taking the average actually. So average is 5. Another this pixel shown in the orange block actually 14699. So we have 9.5 average. So we can go for this average pooling, or we can go by selecting the maximum pixel value. So here first block it's 8, then 14, then 9, then 10 actually, 10, 7, 5, 3. So in this way we can select values. Okay. So here one of the condition is here we are not going for overlapping actually. That's why stride 2 is taken actually. So there is a shift of 2, and because mask size is here 2 by 2. So in this way here you see for this image actually big image or segment we require only 3 by 2 actually. Okay, size. Okay, metric size. Then activation functions, there are various activation functions. So one is the there is a sigmoid activation function, then ReLU activation function and a 10H activation function. So here you can see ReLU activation function, which is widely used. So ReLU means actually this green color activation function. So max of 0x actually. So it is a linear actually. After this 0 means positive side of the axis x-axis, and negative side it's a 0 value. Okay. So these three are popularly used activation functions in the deep learning. Okay. So why fully connected layers? Because convolution layers in CNN, they act as a feature extractor, as I mentioned, and they cannot classify image based on the feature map like in the machine learning. Okay. So last layer actually we will have the fully connected layer, and each node represents one class actually. So number of classes depends on the number of nodes in the uh, fully connected layer. Okay. So that's why fully connected layer is required. But people are doing a lot of experiments in this deep learning, because this is a growing field actually. A lot of scope is there. It's not saturated. So, so people are removing this fully connected layer, and they are putting their traditional support machine or um, KNN classifier or other uh, machine learning classifiers. So there they are actually taking the advantage of feature extraction using convolutional mask. So that is a deep learning concept. And once features are extracted, they are using a support machine, that is a machine learning approach. So in this way, one can have a fused approach, machine learning with the deep learning. So whatever approaches people are using, but their performance is good, then those approaches are used by the people and become popular also. Another thing actually, here in convolutional layers actually, weights. Okay, in the first slide I have shown actually weights actually. For a single neuron, we will have the inputs as x1, x0, x1, x2, x3, and there will be weights actually W0, W1, W3. On the arrow actually we present the weights. So those weights, how to decide actually? So those weights will be trained actually. During training actually we'll give the known sample to the model, and we will see check the output, whether output classified correctly, then whatever weights are there, they're okay. If not correctly, then we'll go back actually. It's called as a back propagation, and we'll keep changing the weights. So, okay, so that till the model classify the given image, given image actual class actually. Predict class is actual class. Okay, so matching. So that is called as a back propagation, back error propagation. So, so here actually, while going from back layers, actually, the derivative operation is used actually. Okay. And a derivative is analogous to the gradient actually. So it is called as a gradient. So this gradient keeps on reducing actually. Okay. And if number of layers are more, then gradient will become a zero, and that is called as a vanishing gradient problem. And even for this activation function also, you can see when this activation function is reaching to the one, so that time this gradient is or derivative is zero. And here also, whenever it is reaching to zero, smooth change. So smooth change represents the derivative operation. Okay, so that's why blue color you can see. So whenever there is a smooth change, also derivative is zero actually on those regions. And whereas there is a transition, so we will have some derivative values actually. So this is one of the big issue in the deep learning for going for many deep layers. So people have many solutions for this actually, and it is a current state of research also. Okay. So here I have given one statistics actually, transition from shallow to deeper network actually. So we can say if number of layers are 5 actually, means as good as it's a machine learning ANN model, then you just we include 5 layers actually. So it's easy. Okay. And the number of layers are more actually, more than initialization or okay. Layers are more than 30. People go for skill solved actually. Training of deep neural networks by seeing the data into mini samples. So this way actually. For a neural network, there is an optimization problem to be solved. Okay, and okay. Here, one of the important thing people do is activations are normalized to zero mean and unit variance to accelerate the training of deeper neural network. Actually. Zero means actually we can subtract the mean actually from each sample value, so that we no need to deal with the big numbers. Okay, so batch normalization, and sometimes if we train a model actually with a fixed data actually, so a model becomes overtrained actually. Okay, and if there is a small variations in the test data while testing, then model will misclassify. It is called as a overtraining. Okay, so how to handle that? So that's why for every training phase actually, okay, whenever we are training, uh, during every epoch actually, you can say the number of these neurons in each layers we can drop actually. So that dropping is performed randomly. So random dropping of neurons makes network more robust towards noise and overfitting actually. Okay, so here, so because we are not going to give the image actually or input exactly whatever we are trained, there will be definitely some change. So model will have should have some intelligence actually to classify in the correct class. For example, if there are two classes like a cat and dog, okay, so for training images, whatever we use, same images we use for testing, then we will get a very good accuracy. But if we have new cat image now, so that time this model will adjust actually. So that's why people are going for this type of dropout regularization. And since I told that CNN models are widely used, actually, I have shown the statistics also. So there are a lot of other models also people are using, but CNN you will find a very large user actually for this medical image processing. So this is the list I tried to give. That AlexNet, then VGG, GoogleNet, ResNet, HighwayNet, DenseNet, then ResNext, CNET, NASNet, YOLO, GANS, Siemens, Nets, UNet, FINET. So you'll find the papers actually using these deep neural networks for medical image processing problem. Even you can, I have seen actually, we have used this unit also for brain tumor detection purpose. So in this way, you can select the network actually for your application. And this is uh, one solution, as I mentioned, is skip connection. If no number of layers are more, to avoid this vanishing gradient problem, people can skip some connections. So that's why this is the bypass actually. So input sample is again, whatever sample here actually is again fed to this function here. And in this way, uh, vanishing gradient problems will be solved actually. So this is the another statistics I want to give here. So this is ILS VRC competitions actually. People have a lot of competitions actually. So it is in 2010 actually. So this competition started after the release of the ImageNet data set actually. As I told, ImageNet data contains millions of images and 1,000 classes actually, 1,000 classes, different classes. They have class like a cat image, dog image, humans, car, then train, airplane, all different objects they have. So that is the class. So that's why then they started actually conducting the competitions actually and asking people to use their data set only and publish the paper. And since everybody has used the same data set, so it's very good to compare the performance actually. Otherwise, if people use a different data set, then the results will be different actually. So just to have that type of comparison, people conducted this competition. Their group conducted competition. Okay, and so you can see here the first time they use a shallow network. Shallow means less than near 5, maybe 5 or 6 layers, And you can see top 5 error actually is 28.2, then 25.8 actually. Then in 2012, AlexNet was introduced actually. So AlexNet group also participated in the competition, and they won that competition that time. So that's why, because there are error actually, top 5 error was less actually, and that error was 16.4 that time. Okay. Then in 2013, again the error reduced to 11.7 actually. Then in 2014, VGG group it's a so they use a 19 layers actually, but the error is 7.3. So you are seeing that error is reducing year by year. But what is increasing actually? Number of layers are increasing actually. So you have to pay the cost of layers actually to achieve the better performance. So you can see in 2014 actually GoogleNet won the competition, this competition, and uh, so their error was less actually among the all models. So error was reported 6.7%, and they use a 22 layers actually. Okay. And in 2015, ResNet was introduced. So you can see ResNet they got the error 3.57% actually, uh, and but they use a very high number of layers, 152 layers. So message is actually more the layers actually you can reduce the error actually. Okay. So here actually whatever I have shown from 10 to 15 actually successive 5 years statistic is shown. All these papers are on ImageNet database only actually, and you can see their performance. So that comparison is very important, and you can see uh, by using more layers we are getting a better accuracy. You can see you can imagine 3.57% error means error, and that too on the 1,000 classes actually and million images. Okay, so it's very good achievement, uh, and that's why this deep learning is becoming popular. Okay, there is another class is called as a dense net. So here actually there are blocks actually x0, x1, x2, x3, x4 blocks are there, and we are giving the output of this first block as a input to the all blocks actually. So such a type of dense network is connected. But you can imagine actually if you are giving these inputs to the all blocks actually, so there is a lot of network actually. So that's why it's a dense. A dense network requires higher competitions actually. So a lot of hardware is required. But another reason for the popularity of the deep learning is our development in the hardware actually. We have very high computing machines. People have a lot of um, facilities of parallel computing actually. So because of these things actually people are able to succeed actually using a deep neural networks with large number of layers actually. So deep learning programming framework actually another good advantage is that a lot of open source libraries are available actually with Python. You should work with the Python and you can use these libraries. You can import libraries and you can use this ready-made function. So programming is also very easy nowadays. Okay. Uh, Only thing you need a workstation or and high computing machine. That is the important thing. Okay. And what are the libraries available? Like a TensorFlow library is there. Uh, Another is a PyTorch library actually. Facebook's AI research group proposed this. Then Caffe2, Keras libraries are also there actually. So this use as a top up with TensorFlow libraries. Then Matconnet, then Cafe, Theano, Torch. Okay, these libraries are there. But in our lab, actually, people are using TensorFlow, PyTorch, Keras, and that's all. Okay, these are very popular and they are more convenient. So people are using those libraries. So okay, and let us before discussing actually COVID-19 detection, mm, let us understand actually how the performance is measured. So here you can see uh, okay, whenever we are classifying the image, given image into classes, then how to measure its performance actually. So here we have considered two classes and develop a confusion matrix. Okay, as name indicates actually, confusion means here we are going to show that whether true class is confused with the predicted class or true class is not confused. Okay, so that's why the confusion matrix name is given. So here you can see here a true and predicted. So true class, let us consider here true means a COVID-19 and COVID-19 positive and COVID-19 negative. If person is positive and in predicted class he is detected as positive. So that is a good situation. Here person is a COVID-19 positive, but he is detected as a negative. So here person is going to miss that treatment. Doctors will not treat him because he is not suffering from COVID-19. And in second case, here actually person is COVID-19 affected and he's predicted as a not affected, but he's predicted as a positive. So doctors are giving him treatment actually. He is healthy, but treatment is given actually. So that is also not good. And last case is person do not have COVID and predicted also not COVID. So these things are required. So in medical field, that's why this confusion matrix is very important. Otherwise, we will give unnecessary treatment to the healthy person, and we will not give treatment to the patient actually on the basis of disease. So that's why we require a very good accuracy, reaching to the 100%, actually 99 to 100%. So these are the formulas for that: true positive plus true negative divided by positive and negative. Positive means all these positives, p dash, okay, or okay, and sensitivity means true positive divided by this positive, or true positive divided by true positive plus false negative. So these definitions are important. I think most of the people are aware about these definitions, those are working in machine learning and deep learning. So let us go to the application, how we have used this deep learning for our COVID-19 application. So, so we have considered the CT image because one of the research paper actually published recently by the Royal Hospital London, they mentioned that there's a performance of COVID-19 CT images is better than the X-ray images. So that's why we have selected this. So you can see here, this is the first image where one person infected by COVID-19, and after 10 days actually a second image is taken. So here you can see actually um, here grayness, actually grayness here actually you can see I have shown with the arrows. So it is called as a ground glass opacity, GGO, ground glass opacity. More the ground glass opacity, more is the COVID-19 infection. Okay, so here, okay, so this infection is represented by the this gray color actually. So whenever any foreign fluid actually, okay, surrounds the lungs actually, lungs, then its opacity will change actually, okay, and that's shown by this gray color actually. So more gray color means more infection. It is a this is an increased stage actually. You can see here. So it is also called as a crazy paving actually. People are using these terms actually. Crazy paving means like a broken style actually. Okay, our floors actually have many styles. If you broke actually, you will get this type of broken glass. You will get this type of texture. Okay, so we have to based on that actually people are saying it's a COVID positive or COVID negative. Okay. So this is the research graph we found actually, and we tried to address some problems. So most of the studies have very small amount of data actually. That is the problem still now because online images is difficult. Getting online images is difficult, and even collaborating with the hospital, that is also difficult. You have to go through the ethical committees and other things. So that's why there is a database is one of the issue. Okay. Network developed is costly. As I mentioned, that deep learning models are costly, means there are a lot of competitions. So if you're doing a remote diagnosis, then we have to transmit the image, then we have to perform competitions, and then again send the report. Okay, so there are challenges. People are doing this detection on CT images, but they are not working on the image enhancement technique actually. So we try to use the image enhancement in our problem. So before testing actually, we will improve the quality of the image actually before and actually. So that's why accuracy can be enhanced actually. And people are using the transfer learning actually because that's easy. Already models are trained with some bigger data set like ImageNet data set. It takes a lot of time. So we can use the model actually trained model directly to solve our problem. Okay. So people are going for the transfer learning model. So already developed model used for some other application that is called as a transfer learning. Um, so our research objectives I have just mentioned here actually that can image enhancement techniques provide any improvement in the diagnosis that we are going to check actually. Then how significant is the performance boost provided by using deep learning approaches over machine learning. Okay, deep learning approaches over machine learning or traditional handcrafted descriptors. Okay. And how to tackle the overfitting issues. Okay, that I also discussed. So these are some of the research problems we will address actually. So this is one general diagram of the proposed model actually. Here we will give only two class, COVID and non-COVID. We will do some pre-processing. Here actually as a pre-processing we want to do image processing technique, enhancement technique. And then here fine-tuned mobile net v2 is model is used for feature extraction. And last year, as I mentioned, that can be used as a fully connected layer with the two classes, or we can go for some machine learning algorithm. So we also try to use a machine learning algorithms. So all those things we are going to I'm going to explain in step by step. So this is the database we have used. This is a COVID-19 database. Um, so COVID-19 class, you can see here a lot of grayness is there. So that's why there is an infection. So these are the COVID-19 images. And these are the non-COVID images. So there is no grayness. They are black. We want the black color, more black color in the lungs actually. Okay. So more the black color, the better the uh, person is, better his health. Okay. So you can see we are in the this is the one of the database we found that, and you can see 2,482 images are used. Okay. So still that number is not good actually for deep learning application, but it's online, so we are using that. So pre-processing stage, image enhancement actually those who have studied image processing course, they know there are a lot of image enhancement technique. Um, means they can use the filters to remove noise. They can use a contrast stretching approach. So contrast stretching is one of the important image enhancement techniques. So we are also going to use here contrast stretching approach. And in contrast stitching, there are approaches on like histogram based approach, histogram specialization or histogram equalization approach. So here in this um, case, we have to enhance the contrast of the CT image. And we have used contrast limited adaptive histogram equalization technique, that is a CLAHE, this algorithm. So it's just um, extension of histogram equalization. What is histogram equalization? It performs uh, contrast stretching, but it performs contrast stretching automatically. Just give the image, then our algorithm will compute it histogram. Then that algorithm will modify the histogram. Based on the modified histogram, image will be modified, and output image will be given. Okay, so that is a histogram equalization technique. So principle of histogram equalization is, as name indicates, it equalizes the histogram. Means it tries to bring all values actually at same level. And also contrast stretching means it tries to stretch the contrast. So all gray levels will be present in the histogram. Not all, but majority. It will try actually. So it will set the transfer function accordingly, so that there will be many number of gray levels present, many shades present in the output image as compared to the input image. So that is histogram and histogram enhancement. And what is histogram? Histogram means number of uh, number of pixels having a particular gray level. Like if image is a binary image, then how many pixels are having zero gray level, and how many pixels are having one gray level. So that graph actually, if you plot number of pixels having a particular gray level and x-axis the gray level 0 and 1. So that is, and in normal image we will have 0 to 255 grayscale. So on x-axis we will have 0 to 255. Y-axis will represent the number of times that number of pixels having that gray level. So that is the histogram. And so we are going to use this histogram equalization. But for city images, actually, we used this CLAE approach. Actually, CLAE means instead of applying the histogram for the global global point of view or from the full image, we'll divide the given image into 8 by 8 blocks. And for each 8 by 8 block, we will compute the histogram, color histogram, his histogram equalization will do. But in that histogram equalization, we will clip the amplitude or keep the values in the y-axis actually. Um, uh, if our city image is noisy, so that's why some noise clipping is used. So that is a CLAE technique, and I will show the results. So these are the results actually. So you can see here the original image, then contrast stretching image. So here actually one transformation equation is used, and then histogram equalization, then CLAE. So that equation is also present in the available in the Gonzalez and Woods book, image processing book. So you can see their histograms. This is the original image. Then contrast stitching operation using the transfer using the equation actually, that equation present in the Gonzalez book, and then histogram equalization. So you can see actually in histogram equalization here this original histogram, nothing was present before this 50 actually. Okay, gray level 50. So range is 0 to 255. So before 50, there was no any pixel. But in histogram equalization, you can see there is one bar actually before 50 also. So you can see before 50 also. Okay. So this is another image result. So here actually you can see uh, more number of pixels are there actually. Okay, in this. So here actually histogram trying to equalize the intensity number of pixels for each gray level. As a result of that, there is a stretching and there is a availability of these gray levels in the output image, and that's why you can see this looks very noisy. Okay. Though contrast has stretched, but more noise content is there. So that's why this enhancement is not good actually for city image. This may work for natural images, maybe photography purpose actually. So okay, but not for city image. So in city image there is a some noise actually. Already there is a noise. We are aware about that. We know that. So that's why we are using this clipping approach, noise clipping this approach. Here you can see if we compare this with the contrast stretching approach. So it is little different that it looks more like a original image actually. You have peaks, but it's stretched also, little stretched, and still it's under control of the amplitude actually. Okay. So anyway, we are getting better results with this, so that's why we are using this. So most of time actually in image processing actually the techniques may work for some like city images may not work for the X-ray images. So these things happens. So this is working good for our case actually, city images. Okay. So we tried to compute actually it's a PSNR ratio also, peak signal to noise ratio. So using these formulas actually we computed. Okay. Based on the error actually we have computed error also, mean square error. Okay. So PNR's values are mentioned here. You can see. So this is the contrast stretching and then histogram equalization and CLAE. So every row actually you can see first image CLAE has a highest PSNR, second image also highest PSNR. Okay, third also highest, and fourth. So every case actually we got a very good PSNR, and that's why we selected this. Clahe for our application. Okay. Then let us go for the classification technique actually. So we are here actually I am going to show actually the performance of different classifiers. So that development I want to show actually. So here actually let us consider the machine learning approach. So machine learning we can go with the feature, handcrafted feature. So here one feature is mentioned, gray level co-occurrence matrix, GLCM. This is one of the popular features actually for this texture kind of images. So that I will show you actually what is that operation, how to compute the GLCM values actually. So this is the given image and this is the GLCM image actually. Okay, GLCM matrix actually. So image may be 256 by 256. Okay, image may be a bigger size, but how many shades are there actually inside that? So here we have this image. It contains 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 intensity values are there. So we have here on X in the row actually 1, 5. So row indexes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This 5 intensity values. Here also 5 intensity values. Similar like a confusion or matrix. Okay, so 5 here, 5 here. And what we will do actually, so 1 followed by 1 actually, 1 followed by 1. So that we will count and put in this bin. So here 1 time and 2 times. So we are putting here 2. Then 1 followed to 2. So how many times here? Here this is a 1 followed 2. And here also 1 followed 2. So 2 times only. So that's why 2 is written here. Then 1 followed 3. So 1 to 3. How many times? 1 time. So for this there is no. So only 1 time is there. So 1 time. Then 1 to 4 actually, 1 followed by 4. So no, so that's why 0. So in this way, this matrix is developed. So this matrix actually, we are considering the occurrence actually, occurrence in the x-axis actually. So that's why angle is 0. So GLCM 0 it is called. Similarly, we can have a variety of angles. So we can consider 45 degree or minus 45 degree or 90 degree, 180 degree. Okay. So in this way, we can have angles. Okay. So another operation is here shown actually just to understand the second type. GLCM 45. You can see 5 followed by 2. 5 followed by 2 is only 2 times. So 2 is mentioned. So in this way, you can generate the matrix. So this matrix size is the intensity actually, gray level values. Gray level, number of gray levels by number of gray levels. And not by number of pixels, number of rows by number of columns of the pixels. Okay. So this matrix, based on this matrix, we can classify. So this is the feature matrix actually. We have extracted the features for the given image. So based on that feature also, we have done some classification. So finally, I'm going to show the comparison. The next approach is a baseline model. You know, deep learning, you have to propose your model. So you can develop your own model. Okay. So we have developed here model that I'm going to explain actually. So we have considered these layers actually, and we have considered input image size is 128 by 128 for this first convolutional blocks, and 3 is mentioned because we are giving is for 3 channel, and then output. Then there is another convolution layer in this way. Then there is a batch normalization. Then max pooling is performed. You can see here max pooling we are reaching the size actually. So 128 by 128 was the matrix size as an input to this max pooling, but 64 by 64 is the max pooling operation. So it's a 2 by 2 filter size for max pooling. So we are going to put the 2 by 2 block and find the maximum out of that. People go for max pooling than average pooling because you will not get these floating numbers actually. Average you get a fraction number. So most of time people go for max pooling or minimum pooling operations. Some layers you can drop also, drop out layers. For model regulation purpose, people use this. then another convolution layer. So in this way, so you develop this baseline model. You can develop your own model actually. You can test. They keep changing the number of layers, then max pooling layers, their filters, all those things with some logic actually, with some thinking. And then if your model is performing good, then you just accept that model and go ahead. So this is the model. So that's why I'm not discussing the model, but whether model is performing better or not, that we have to we'll get through these graphs actually. Okay. So these are the epochs actually, means a number of times we are running the model. So epochs, more the epochs actually, you'll get the things stable actually here. So here red color indicates the training actually. So initially training accuracy or loss, training loss or error was high, but now and some fluctuation up to 20 epoch. After that it's steady, it's a steady and it's up to 0.6% actually. Okay. So comparatively less error. And same thing followed for validation also. So that's why we accepted this model. We thought we should go with this model. Okay, but here you check the accuracy. So accuracy for this training case and accuracy for this validation case. Okay, so it's a less than 70%. Okay, so this is the case for the baseline model. So we have proposed this model, but this model is not very good actually, because I told that in medical field we require a very good accuracy, because we don't want to give the treatment to the patient who is not a patient actually, means who is not COVID infected, but we are giving treatment. So those cases we don't want. And opposite also, person is healthy and we are giving the treatment. So that also wastage of resources and playing with the health of the person. So these things are not required. So this model is not suitable for medical purpose. Okay. So we try to improve this model with the image enhancement technique. You can see by using the CLAE, there is a improvement actually. I want to show this journey. That's why I'm going to discuss 2-3 approaches actually, right from the scratch actually. So first model was not successful because of very less accuracy. But if we, after using this image enhancement technique, we found improvement. Loss is okay actually. Loss is certain further reduced to 0.2%. That is okay. But you see the accuracy also we got stable accuracy at 90% actually. Okay. After 50 epoch, you can see here 90% accuracy we observe. So that is the good thing with the CLAE. At least we can propose this model with this accuracy. Okay, as I mentioned, the people there is a lot of trend actually to use the transfer learning models, and it's like a steroids actually. Okay, some energy, something ready-made we are providing actually. Okay, boosting actually. So that's why it's a transfer learning. So transfer learning is we will not do any uh, model training part actually. Already somebody has trained actually. So we'll use his weights directly. Okay. So this is a source model. So this is our model, target model actually. So this knowledge we are going to transfer directly and we are going to use. Okay. So this saves actually training time, huge competition time will be reduced. And that's why there is a lot of popularity of this transfer learning models in these cases. Why to use transfer learning? Because weight initialization will be done automatically. We don't want to do the training, so we'll use a pre-trained weights. Fine tuning means we will change some layers actually, few layers we will change, and those layers we will train actually just to make model actually customized for our application. Okay, like model was developed for ImageNet, so we are going to customize it for just two class problem, COVID-19 and non-COVID problem. Okay, so this is there. So with this example, I'm going to show that. Okay. So here ImageNet model, you see image model is trained. This MobileNet V2 model is trained with the ImageNet dataset. ImageNet dataset is millions of images actually they have, and classes is 1,000 classes. They use the softmax function for the classes. So lot of time actually we have to spend to train this. But somebody has already spent the time, so we will not do that. We will just borrow those weights actually directly and use here in our case. And we are going to modify actually block 16 and this convolution 2D and batch normalization, these blocks. So these weights we have taken from the pre-trained model. And now we are doing our samples. So I told that we have samples around 2500 actually, 24 something actually number was there. And maybe 1200 images for COVID and 1200 non-COVID. So we have a small number of images. So we'll give an input image, one of the image as an input. We'll give the COVID image as an input and we'll check the output class. If its output is detected as a COVID, then we'll not change the weights actually. But if it is not detected as COVID, if it is detected as a non-COVID, then we'll change the weights. But which weights we'll change? We'll change these weights actually by back propagation. But we will not disturb these frozen weights. Okay. Then we'll give another image. And again we'll train. In this way, we can train for many images, maybe around 1000 images. Okay. So that depends on your database and your competition capacity. So we have do that. We have did that. Actually, what is another problem that during the second wave we have seen actually there was a shortage of oxygen, shortage of beds at some part of the city or some part of the states actually we have seen. So then there was a um, um, there was a mobility of the resources like oxygen train or oxygen tankers we have seen actually traveling from Odisha to Delhi, all those things we have seen. So to avoid that, actually, we want to contribute something into the COVID resource management. So that time actually we proposed this model that instead of working on the cloud layer, actually we want to work on the smartphone actually or edge layer. Smartphone is the example of edge device. So on the edge device, uh, we will do this COVID-19 detection actually. And you know in our country like India actually there is a problem of the network. Okay, internet connectivity is not always good in the remote areas. Okay, so considering that actually we decided to perform the computations on the mobile or edge device, and only results will be informed to the cloud layer. Results means we will only send his location. That's why location is given here. Okay, GPS using GPS location of that mobile. So location and that name of the person and it's COVID positive, he is COVID positive, that information is sent. Only text data is sent to the cloud layer. So there is no any load actually, okay, on the cloud. Only simple information we are sending. So there will not be an issue. Otherwise, you have to send the CT image to the cloud, then cloud will perform the operation, then it will just return that image and your result. Okay. So it's time consuming. So we have proposed this approach. And this cloud layer actually we can give the access to the government agencies, news channels or hospitals. So if more patients are coming from the particular location, then immediately actually government can take decision to transfer the oxygen or divert the oxygen tankers to that region, doctors to that region, more number of ambulance will be sent to those hospitals. Okay, so those things can be immediately performed. And another important is red zone will be detected immediately. Okay, that is a red zone. So at least movement or infection to the other people will be stopped. Okay. So these things are possible actually. So that was the motivation. And that's why we use the mobile net V2 network because it requires less computation as compared to the other network because originally it was designed for the mobile purpose only. So we propose that and that's all for the mobile net V2 network. You can see here this mobile is scanning the image and if it is a corona affected, so there will be alert actually. So that time only information will be sent. If person is checking his city and he is not affected by corona, then his information will not be sent to the cloud. So such a simple approach was used for cloud management. So this is one of the feature of the mobile net V2 that they perform the convolution operation in the two stages actually, depth wise and point wise to reduce the competitions. Because here we are performing the operation on the mobile, to reduce the competition was one of the key objective. And you can see the performance, what performance we observed with the MobileNet V2 model. So this is the MobileNet V2 model. So we are getting even more near to 1, means near 98-99% accuracy for the training. But for validation, we have got little less, maybe approximately to the 95% or so. So this is well model actually, good model can be used actually. Okay. So these are the conversion. These are the confusion matrices for classifier. So before that, I will tell you. So here actually, instead of using this max pooling layer and the last actually, we are going to change it as a SVM and KNN. Actually, we did that, and again we observed the improvement in the accuracy. But we got a good accuracy with the these machine learning approaches. So I have summarized actually that I will show later on. But here you can see this KNN classifier. 240 COVID images are detected as a COVID, so it's good. Only 10 images actually are detected as a non-COVID. So person is a COVID, but is detected as a non-COVID. Okay, maybe because of that ground glass opacity or infection is less. So because of that reason, there is a less these observations. But this need to be further improved. Okay, improve actually. Okay. The non-COVID actually, here you can see 14 are misclassified. Means they are not having COVID but detected as a COVID. Here 236 actually. So these numbers are good actually. Okay. You can see same thing is for SVM classifier. Okay. So I have compared here the results. So you can see original with GLCM plus KNN. We got this accuracy actually. And by using CLIA, there is an improvement actually. Then CLIA plus baseline model actually, we will see further improvement here. Here 3 bar indicates the accuracy, precision and sensitivity. You can see, at least you see this accuracy is increasing step by step. CLIA MobileNet V2, here it's increased. In SVM case, it's a little reduced. But again, this KNN, it's slightly increased. So in this way, we have proposed, you can see, I have considered here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cases actually. So I have explained here the journey actually, okay, for this COVID-19 detection, that too from machine learning to deep learning, and again with a mixed approach, machine learning and deep learning, and also including image enhancement techniques. So this slide is very important. Here we have summarized so many things. Okay, and data set. Actually, we require a large data set for getting a bigger, better accuracy, and we have to test on the large database because of the medical application. Then and then only medical community will accept our model and they will use our model. So it is also called as a clinical validation. So we have to do the clinical validation of our model, and then it can be deployed to the hospital. Okay. So that's all for the COVID-19. Okay. In general, I want to talk about the medical, give some input for the medical image analysis using the deep learning. So these are the databases available, already available. You can use these databases. Here I have summarized actually that database name and then anatomic site, means for which organ we can use, and image modality, and what type of task actually. Like here Brad's database is there. So there, that database is the database of MRI images, and people use this for brain tumor detection. So anatomic site is a brain, and used for image segmentation, because segmentation will give you the size of the tumor. So depending on the tumor size actually, doctors can plan the surgery, doctor can plan the meditation, actually, medicines also. If tumor is very small surgery, so accordingly, uh, surgery can be planned. Okay, so these things are important. Like there is another model actually, ADNI model for the brain. Again, same model is used MRI, but this is good for the classification purpose. Okay, so I have, for your convenience, I have written this actually. Then other disease actually, like breast cancer, actually DDSM database is there. So it's a mammography. Again, people are going for segmentation. So depending on the demand of the application, people have developed the databases actually. Okay. So there was a demand actually for segmentation task, something automatic doctors want actually that time. So that time people develop this type of database and for mammography case. Okay. Even people use JPEG images. You can see one has developed JPEG image database actually. Okay. ISIC 2018 database. Even whatever database we have used actually, it's in a PNG format actually. So people not sharing actually CT images also. I'm not sure actually. There may be some new databases available, but you check actually. But at least whatever available, I have summarized here. Some popular databases you can use and you can start working actually, just to motivate you to work on medical image and with a deep learning. So that's why these databases are there. There are various medical challenges, like I mentioned one challenge for this uh, deep learning models actually. Okay, so similarly there are challenges for the medical images also for solving medical problem actually. So like BRAD's database actually, like ImageNet database, we have seen the challenges, and ResNet actually with a more than 100 layers actually they used, and their accuracy or their error was up to 3 point something. That was on in the 2015 actually. So similarly in medical image also, there are various databases like you can see here, BRAD's database which I just mentioned. So they conduct actually uh, competitions actually. So in 2018 they conducted competition actually. So you can participate in such a competitions. So that's why you have to use their database. You have to propose your algorithm, and you have to then send your paper or work to them. And there is a competition. If your accuracy is better than others' accuracy, your competition time, then your layers, number of layers, uh, machine used by you, all those things actually will be compared, and then prize will be given. Okay. So these are the different challenges. RSNA pneumonia detection challenge actually. So this automatically locate lung opacities on the chest or radiologist. Actually, why I have included here this challenge, because this pneumonia is actually very close to the COVID-19 actually. Many times actually this pneumonia is misclassified with COVID-19. So some papers you will find they have considered three classes actually: healthy, pneumonia, and COVID-19 actually, because symptoms of the pneumonia are similar to the COVID-19 actually, or at least CT image you will find similar opacities. So this is also a challenge. So in future we may have the COVID-19 detection challenge, okay, similar to this, but already there is no database. That's why there is no challenge proposed by anybody, any group. Okay. So what are the challenges in going deep actually? Deep learning, okay, is very good, very attractive. But what are the challenges? So one of the key challenges is the limited annotated data set. And that's why same challenge we are facing with the COVID-19 detection. There is a less online database, and in that also there is a less annotated database actually. Okay. So that is one challenge. Small data set, obviously there is a challenge. Class imbalance problem. Class imbalance problem is uh, like there's a database, but in that database more number of healthy images are there. Like in 2000 images are there, for example, and in that database 1500 images of healthy person, because it's easy for them to capture. So they have included 1500, and only 500 images of the COVID patients. So if I want to use this database, so there is a class imbalance problem, because I'm training the model with the For example, 1,000 images from the data set, 1,000 images I'm using for a healthy person, okay, and 300 images from COVID patients. So definitely model is more trained more to the healthy patient. So model will be a biased model actually. So that we don't want actually. We don't want to do partiality, okay. So that's why we have to um, make the two classes equal. So this is also one problem we have to handle. So people do go for the augmentation problem. You can say if there is 1,500 images of healthy and 500 images of the COVID, then you can go for the 500 non-COVID and 500 COVID images. That is true. But to avoid the class image problem, but our database is reduced actually. So then we cannot address that problem, small database problem that we cannot address. So that's why alternative technique is augmentation actually. People will develop uh, more images actually for COVID case. So 500 already there. So another 1,000 images they will generate using augmentation technique. Okay. And in this way they will train actually. So what is that augmentation? Augmentation is from the given database actually we'll rotate those images, 500 images. I will change the scale actually, scale up actually, okay. All those things. Or I can have a mixer or sum of two images from same database, something like that to generate the new images, okay. So that is there. Overfitting during training phase, that is also many times the problem because our training images are better actually and there is no much variation. So this we have to handle with the dropping layers, dropout layers, okay. Dropping neurons from the layers or dropping layers directly. Few layers you can drop in this way. Training time is again a challenge. So to address that training time, we have to propose a model accordingly. That's why we have selected. You see, we have selected mobile net model because we want a less, and we use the transfer learning to avoid the training time. Okay. So training time. That's why the people are using transfer learning. Okay. So in this way, these are the challenges. So I think solutions I have already discussed actually. Like class imbalance augmentation is one thing. Patch-wise training actually divide image into small patches. So we'll have more patches actually. Then you go for this. Okay. Overfitting, adding dropouts I mentioned. Training the time, pulling layers you can use. Pulling layers reduces the dimension actually. Okay. So you can go for pulling, normalization. And also you can go for transfer learning. So there's no training time, less training time. Okay. So how to start this actually for the new students, I want to give this message that they can start with the Kaggle and other competitions actually, and they can use a pre-trained model, okay. And this medical database, I have shown the data site also, database also. You search, you will get, you can download those database. And models also I mentioned existing pre-model, 10 model. Next level uh, you can use the UNet and VNet type of models actually. Combine third-party data set for greater insight. Then you can build your own model from scratch. Okay. Then you can add feedback loops in your model. You can make the model more complicated, okay, more useful. You can industrialize with the ML and DL pipeline, that is machine learning and deep learning pipeline. Then reinforcement learning is kind of nowadays people are using this. Okay. This is becoming popular day by day. So you can experiment with this. So all these things you have to experiment actually. This at least for CS student or electronics and electrical students, they should do this because future is the AI, artificial intelligence, and deep learning is the key part of the AI actually. Like you can see, it's a heart of the AI actually. Okay, so that's why you have to start the journey. Okay, if you are not started, go for deep learning. Start your journey. So whatever work, most of the work actually, whatever I published actually, uh, a major part is published in this paper actually, and this paper actually published in Springer, and this Vipul Kumar Singh, who is the first author of this paper, is my MTech student. and most of the work which I presented actually is implemented by him. Okay, so that's why I want to acknowledge here. And okay, so thank you. And another thing, I have invited my student actually, with whom I published the paper, to give some demonstration actually. Okay, so that will help you to start. Actually, after giving this big lecture, actually, if some students started using this, that will be the outcome of this presentation. Okay. So, Vipul, have you joined? We check. Okay.
Uh,
Is there?
one second, sorry. Vipul, I think he has
Yes,
joined.
sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I'm there.
Okay, you
Should
have
I
joined.
make you present?
Okay.
Are you going to present something, Vipul?
Yes, sir. I am going
Yeah,
to show some part of coding in now.
Okay, I have made you the presenter.
Okay, okay.
So Vipul, you present your present our work actually. It's just whatever I discuss actually accordingly you present something. And it's time now. How much time is there? 10, 15 minutes, isn't it?
We have time, sir. We have time, sufficient time.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yes. So you go ahead, okay.
Okay, sir. So, like, these are few codes I have. Is my screen visible, no, sir?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. So these are few coding part exercises I can show you. So, like, for the first part, I am showing some of the examples for machine learning, and finally with some R work in COVID-19 using deep learning models.
Hmm.
So, like, this block diagram shows you kind of overall workflow of a machine learning task. Like, we first extract data, we clean and modify those
Vipul,
data.
can you just
Yes,
hide the tab above?
yeah, this thing.
Press F11.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, sir. So,
No, I think press F11 so that it becomes a full screen. Your Chrome, you are on Chrome, right?
yes, sir.
Then
Yes, sir.
this just below your DP there is an arrow. See that arrow below your DP, right hand side? Yeah, click that. Yeah, now it is perfectly fine.
Okay. So, like, this is the workflow what I was talking about, and after the second part where we clean and modify the data, we go for preparation for the machine learning task, like splitting the data in and testing blocks, and finally we train some models and we cross validate on the testing data set and we tune the hyperparameters and all these things, and finally we evaluate the results. So this is a general overview of what a project in machine learning exactly looks like. So, like, we are going to see like how we represent the data set. So, like, in a matrix form, so in the rows we are going to have the number of samples, like each of the row corresponds to one example of the training or the testing part, and each of the columns correspond to some of the features, and this is what is called the feature matrix. And finally we will have one target vector which will be having the classes, corresponding classes to each of the samples. So, like, if it is a supervised learning task, then there will be defined classes, or else it won't be having, we will find out clusters from the feature matrix. These are few of the major libraries which we should look for while using machine learning tasks. And for deep learning, I am going to show you our own project. So for the first part, I'm going to use import all the libraries for required for our project. So, like, we are going to use here TensorFlow library, Keras library, and I'm going to just import those things. This IDE which I'm using is online cloud-based IDE, Google Collaboratory. Everyone can access this, and they provide some amount of free GPU and TPU support. That's why we generally use this for our educational purposes. So as we can see, this part is run. So here we are kind of defining like how we do in C programming that whatever we are going to use in our program, we kind of include those header files. Similarly, we are going to import all these things what we are needing. Like we are going to need convolutional layers, zero padding layers, batch normalization, activation layers, dropout layers, and these things I have imported from to our IDE. So this is what the model we proposed, which sir have talked about. In this, we can see that we have two convolutional layers for the beginning, which have 32 filters of size 2 by 2. And the input size we have kept as 128 by 128. And the activation functions we have used is the ReLU activation function because it kind of helps in preventing the model from getting overfitting. And finally, we do one batch normalization layer to make the mean and variance uniform to follow a uniform distribution. And finally, max pooling layer, dropout layer. So these are kind of what I have. We have coded the model which we are going to use. So like with just a small amount of data, how we are actually going to prevent this model to get overfitting is like because we are going to excessively use batch normalization layers and dropout layers. So you can see in the convolutional blocks, we are dropping 25% of the neurons from this layer. And here also we are dropping 25% of the neurons. And in the dense fully connected layers, we are dropping 50% of the neurons. So we are defining the model. And let's see the model summary. So as you can see, this is the model summary of ours. So the number of layers are the number of trainable layers, like the layers which are going to have trainable parameters. So this is going to have some 8-layer neural network we have designed. And now we are going to import the data set. So I wanted to show where can anyone get the data set. So we can see this Kaggle website which sir have mentioned. Most of the data set regarding to machine learning and deep learning applications can be found here. So this is the web page of that data set from where I have downloaded. So these are this is the paper from to give the citations, and this is the place where I have downloaded all the images. So it have two classes, COVID and non-COVID images, total of 2482 images. And so this I have downloaded and I have stored on my Google Drive. So I will just link my Google Drive for this matter. So this is how. So this part is nothing, just I'm giving the authorization for the Google Colab to use my Google Drive. So as we can see here that my drive is now linked with this collaborative ID. So in this, in my drive, I have stored all the Clahe enhanced images, like what sir have told about. We have pre-processed the images with using the contrast limited adaptive histogram equalization technique. So I'm not going to show you the details about how we actually did the pre-processing. I'm just showing the deep learning part of our experiments. So in my drive, this image dataset is in form of zip, and I am going to extract it in the temporary folder of the Google Colab. So it have extracted, and from there I am going to make training directory, validation directory, and test directory for this for our training and testing of the model. So we can see that a total of around 901 images for the COVID in the training partition, and in the for the non-COVID class there are 879 images. For validation purpose, we have took 100 images of COVID and 100 images of non-COVID class. So here we are going to use the Adam optimizer, like we can use stochastic gradient descent or any other optimizers. So we have done our experiment on Adam and stochastic gradient descent. So I'm going to show how the Adam optimizer is going to perform actually. The initial learning data at 10 power minus 2, and the loss function here we are going to use is binary cross entropy. So because since it is a binary classification task, we are going to use binary cross entropy. So for classification tasks, generally we take the cross entropy loss function because the penalty caused because of a misclassification leads to a infinite cost. So that's why we generally use cross entropy loss for classification task, and for regression task we use mean squared error losses. So here I am defining the batch size of a data set, like how much how much images we are going to train with. So like there are total of 1780 training images. So and we have kept the batch size as 20. So like in total 89 steps, the training of the neural network of for each epoch will take place. And we have set the target size as 188 comma 188. It is because our network takes input of 188 by 188. Similarly, we have used the validation generator also with the same batch size, and the total images are of 200. So the total steps will be 10. So here I have mentioned. So we can see that the training data set is the train generator, validation data is the validation generator, and steps per epoch is 89. That corresponds to 89 into the batch size is equal to 1780. And similarly for the validation, we have used 10 steps because the batch size is kept to 20 for validation data. So here we are going to train for some 10 epochs, or maybe 10 only we will train. Let's see the results of what we get after. Oh, sorry, compiled the model. So the model is getting trained right now. Actually, for our experiments, we have trained the model for around 150 to 200 epochs. But for the demonstration part, I'm just training it for 10 epochs because it will take a lot of time to train. So one epoch has been done, and we can see the training accuracy is around 61% and the validation accuracy is around 50%. And this training is happening using that back propagation algorithm what the sir talked about. Currently, the model is not going to be like well optimized and saturated. The accuracy won't saturate at a particular point because we are training just for 10 epochs. But as we go for a more number of epochs, that accuracy and loss gets saturated to a certain value.
Hello.
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask for this research paper on COVID images.
Yes.
Did you, so was the Google Colab itself sufficient, or did you also use some dedicated GPU hardware also?
So like the basic Google Colab may not be sufficient, but we have taken the Colab Pro for our applications for this purpose. So in that Pro, we get around 24 GB of GPU support. So that was sufficient for our application.
Okay, you used the Pro version of Google
Yes,
Colab.
yes. So that's it for the part of demonstration I have shown you. So like, and if possible, I can show you some of the demonstrations regarding machine learning if we are having time.
I think we are running short on time, Vipul. So
Okay.
if we could conclude, probably we may take some questions.
Okay. Yes, sir. Fine, sir.
If there are any question, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, Dr.
There is a question
Oja,
from Rishabh.
I
Yeah.
asked a few questions in the chat. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Rishabh. If you could just ask a question
Can you-
directly, Rishabh.
Yeah.
Sir, yeah, firstly, very good presentation and very good work. I had few questions. So you said in one of the architectures that you have brought the learned model to the mobile device.
Right.
And so usually the models are of very large size. So did you do or explore federated learning?
I think federated learning we are not explored. People, can you answer this question?
Yes, sir. Actually, in federated learning, what we do, we take several nodes and we train models on those nodes. Like, no, so that is kind of distributed learning task. But we are not going to use distributed learning thing. Here we are kind of approaching to a problem where we can develop an app. And actually, this model is feasible for our app, and we have shown it on in our paper that an app can be developed with this, and that app can be used to predict the diagnosis, and that app will send the data. That's it. We are not going to hear any distributed algorithms to train the model again and again.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Second question is validation accuracy when you used image enhancement
Yes, sir.
in the graph in the slides sir was showing. So the validation
I
accuracy
understood
was
your question.
constant.
Okay, Rishabh. Your question is
Yes,
okay,
sir.
but validation accuracy is improved because our images are error actually image है ना image enhancement we have used actually. So quality of the image is improved. As a result of that, overall performance is improved. But your question is why it is better than training accuracy? There may be.
Uh, yeah, in one of the graphs learning curves, I saw the validation was doing much better than the training. Usually,
Yeah, I
training
also saw.
does better.
Yes, sir.
So
Actually, the number of images used for validation is quite less. So that is one of the reason why we are achieving
that is not an obvious case. Okay, it's sometimes happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
Yeah, but because of this client, actually, while giving input, we are giving the better input. That's why. So here, image processing is playing the role, not deep learning. Okay.
Yes, I got that, sir. Yes.
Okay, that's very easy. Okay, yeah. And
So
any other question?
yes, sir. My last two questions. So, how generalizable in general? I mean, I'm not saying for this project. In general, since you are working in this field, so two questions: how generalizable usually are these machine learning models? Because we usually test them in one data set or two or three data sets. And the second part is that pan India. So India is a large country and we have so much of resources and so many hospitals. Is there any pan India project similar to ImageNet, which is happening, which is annotating these medical related data by medical experts?
Okay, that we have to explore. But there is one Pan IIT group actually. So I participated in many actually Pan IIT gatherings, conventions. Okay, so I will inquire there. Okay, whether we have that type of Pan India AI group. You are asking for. How you come to know this title Pan India AI?
No, I just use this term pan India, meaning if there any, I don't know about it, sir. So I was just wondering, just say for example, ImageNet everybody is using ImageNet in computer
yeah.
vision for pre-trained models. So ImageNet was also an exercise done by a university. They collected millions of images and
Right.
classified them into 1,000
But
categories. And now
that
it
level,
is,
like, things are not moving actually in India. But surely I will collect information. People are doing in different domain actually. I saw CDAC people are doing it. They have different depository. They are doing their own work. Whenever I visit these organizations, but your question is valid actually. Is there any pan India type of a pan IIT? Actually, I have seen the group actually. Okay. When I was in US also, there was one pan IIT meet actually at Chicago. I visited that time there also. So I will inquire with them also. But as such, I didn't come across a full-fledged group actually from there. And after ImageNet, actually, there is no any competition also, you know. After ImageNet, actually, there is no such a big database. Okay. So still we are using
right, sir. Yes.
still we are using a ImageNet as our base actually. Okay.
Hmm.
So it's a number one competition actually. I didn't find any other competitions. Okay, as large as ImageNet actually. So it requires resources also actually. You can understand 1,000 classes actually they are doing and millions images they are training actually. Right now I don't know,
Yes.
but initial days actually they might have used some weeks also or days to train those model, no? Or months also.
Hmm.
That we don't know in the beginning in 2010. Today they may be having some better resources. So that level I felt actually I
Correct.
didn't see, but something at similar approaches we should do in fact, if not there, eh? So IITs, triple ITs, and CIRAC, other people should come and together and do this type of work. But our government's thrust is also AI actually. So many things are happening in this AI actually. So let us see. So you I have sent share my mail ID also. Okay, somebody asked some students asked me somebody asked me mail ID, so I shared my mail ID. I think Ramaya HR asked for a mail ID. So you can send mail actually. Okay, be in touch with me, or even I can send my mobile number also. So I will inform you. Okay, in future I also want to associate it with. So that's a good question. Okay, any other question?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
No, Mitchell, yeah. What are you doing, Rishabh?
I'm a faculty at Indira Gandhi Delhi Technical University, sir. It is a university under Delhi government. I have done my PhD in social computing from IIIT
Okay,
Delhi. Yeah.
okay, Triple IT Delhi. Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
So you can say drop a mail. Actually, I can give the update. Okay,
Sure, sir.
because a
Sure.
lot of things are happening. There are many AI meets also. Okay, and our central government is also very keen. Okay, and even
Okay,
many
sir.
new IITs have started a branch. Actually, Do you aware about that? Like IIT Delhi has one center of AI actually.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yes. Okay,
The
sir.
IIT Kharagpur has also one center on AI, artificial intelligence. So
Okay.
IITs have started AI centers. So collaborative efforts are also government trying. So those type of updates I will give you. Okay, if I get it. Okay. Right now I
Okay,
don't have
sir.
much update, but I will surely give. Okay, that's good. Okay. Any other question?
I think we don't have questions, sir. So probably we can conclude at this point of time. And
Right.
it was very nice of you. Thank you so much, sir. And I thank you for devoting so much time and effort in preparing this talk and
Yeah.
giving it the devoting time towards this workshop and giving time to all the participants and taking interest in it. I understand you all are very busy, but devoting so much time, I really thank you on by the bottom of my heart on part of the participants as well. And I thank Vipul as well for taking out time and making
Yeah,
this good of a presentation.
one of the objective was showing the practical approach actually. Otherwise, we can present
Right,
many
right, right.
slides. But something
Exactly,
student can
exactly.
start, something the faculty can start actually. So that was
That
the
was very
motivation. And that's
thoughtful of you,
why,
sir.
yeah, that's why I included many things actually. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
So we can end here now. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So shall I leave now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay, it's the end of the meeting. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'll end it.
Okay, then.
I'll end it. Thank you, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Bye.